Once again, it's Michael James with another edition of the Live from the Heartland show. And this one is for the week of July 20th, and we're recording it a few days earlier on the 15th of July. Our guests today are going to be two of our producers, Thom Clark, talking politics, and Lynn Orman on the 100th birthday of Ella Jenkins. And before we start and bring Thom on, I just wanted to share a few things that I jotted down. At this time, the summer of 2024, it is very clear that America needs more education and more activism on many fronts to deal with all manner of events and actions being influenced and shaped by big money backing that are characterized by distortion and the lying to the American people as to the whats and whys of things going on, be it the economy, human rights, democracy, climate change, gender, and a lack of basic understanding and the harmony about the needs, opportunities, and rights of our multi-racial, ethnic, and diverse population. I'd like to say that on a big, broad, and very important front, we bemoan the global retreat of what seemed to be a steady advance for many years in the realms of freedom, social justice, education, and equality. Some things have advanced only minimally when we need to do a lot more. We're clearly in a backward and seriously negative slide, nationally and globally, and a normalization of many things and activities that divide people and deteriorate all manner of situations worldwide. To be a good, compassionate, caring human being is a challenge. And I think that hopefully in the discussions we have on this show and the people we bring on, we'll be motivated to go forward because we can make a difference. What we do and the organizing we do can shape the direction for all of humanity. So with that said, we're going to bring on our friend Thom Clark, and here he is. Good morning to you, Thom.
Well, good day to you, Michael, and well said. And my first reaction was, Vive la France. You know, we have had some victories in Britain and France in the last week as sort of a temporary dike against the rising tide, as you referred to it. But what a week, and what a week we have to come on the eve of the inauguration of the former president for a second term. And right after an assassination attempt and within an hour of the announcement that the judge in the documents case has tossed the case against Trump because she claims the prosecutor was unconstitutionally appointed. I mean, it's just a bizarre continuing series of events with Trump, McConnell-packed federal court judges, both on the local, national, federal, and SCOTUS. I don't know if we're going to have time to talk about all this, getting into the legal weeds of how much the Justice Roberts Court is really bought and sold for corporate interests, for the interests of the wealthy, and in the immunity case, giving Trump free and clear, the convicted felon, the twice impeached former president, free reign to be our next king since King George. We played Hamilton over the weekend to try to avoid the news, and I recommend that for people who are feeling a little dour, because of course the immigrants keep pushing us forward, and I think that's one of these glimmers of hope. How many other parts of the world still keep trying to come here because it's so much better than what they're coming from. So on all those fronts we mentioned, this campaign we're in that'll be totally changed by the assassination, alleged attempt over the weekend, some would say. But you're absolutely right about the need to organize even harder. Our dear friend Katie is going to be doing hard work in a swing state strategy going into the fall. God bless her once again, taking out a big chunk of electoral turf to try to get that couch sitting voter, I think, is who we're really after right now.
Well, we got to go after people and who think it will make a difference. I mean, you brought up the Supreme Court right away. And, a number of people probably did vote for Biden because they didn't want the Republicans to name more to the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, it didn't shake out that way. We got 3 justices, I believe it's 3, appointed by Roberts. And the court is clearly a 6-3 with Amy Coney Barrett, a little bit of a wild card these days, but
Yeah, she's Notre Dame educated. We'll have to see if that Holy Cross Brothers morality seeps through. I mean, I know a lot of great Notre Dame law grads who are doing great work. I have a cousin in Colorado who's just been phenomenal in local Democratic circles for all his career. Maybe that'll seep through, but that would still make it a 5-4 court the way things go right now. And both Thomas and Alito shouldn't be there. They're totally corrupted. They're totally compromised, and somehow Justice Roberts has let them get away with it because it's really tarnishing the reputation. I think historians will look back. Roberts lost control of his court, and it's really tarnished the reputation of this Supreme Court.
On the assassination attempt, and a lot of people had their doubts about it, but I don't want to get in too deep into that discussion. Clearly,
I understand Alec Baldwin was seen off-site doing some training, but I'm not sure if that's really true or not.
Is that I don't know if we can run that joke, Tom. I did see that one Democrat, probably a high up Democrat, basically claimed that we would be losing the election to Trump for sure now. And AOC in New York, she basically called for that person to resign.
Yeah.
There is a lot of hand-wringing and concern about the election going forward. But we do have a few months, and we have a lot of organizing that can be done. We still have issues in our favor. We have basically a platform that the Democrats have that is all about helping people on all levels and all fronts. The Republican platform is clearly draconian with this 2025 book of plans that they have. Really, if people can pay attention to these things, they might well be scared off from the Republicans and move to the Democrats. You also mentioned France at the outset of the show here. And we saw what happened in France, where the right won the first of 2 rounds of elections. And it was assumed by everybody that the right would win and that France would have new leaders. And lo and behold, the disparate left of people from different factions and opinions who are at each other all the time came together and won a vote, changing that situation.
They compromised.
They did.
A whole bunch of them pulled out so that the right people could get in. And to a certain extent, that's kind of what happened with Labour in England too. But God, they're facing so many problems. Both of those countries are. But I think the question on the U.S. front is whether, and the question that people are asking, quite frankly, is whether we have the right spokesperson to make the case for the great record this administration has set for itself the last 3.5 years in office. And to my mind, we're not going to have much influence on our Live from the Heartland mouthpiece here on whether or not Joe runs. He and his family and advisor are going to have to make that decision. And if he's on the ballot, that's who I'm all in for, given the alternative. But I also think it's time for Kamala Harris to shine. And you have the likes of Bill Daley saying, an open convention is not such a bad idea. Whether it's Harris or somebody else, that could get everybody really excited. And, I'm kind of in that camp. I just don't see the mechanisms in the next week or 10 days or 2 weeks unfolding. The Democratic convention being a week away, a month away. And I'm disappointed more in the local front that Mayor Brandon's forces didn't pick up on our idea last month to have a First Amendment parade and welcome all voices to come on into Chicago and let their issues be heard, because that's what our democracy is about. But
I was just going to ask you about that. I was just going to say you had made a great suggestion about free speech marches and including everybody. And I just wonder if you or I or any of us ever talked to the mayor or anyone else that we might know that would help influence
Well,
it.
let's just say it was a trial balloon that turned out to be made of lead. So, I've moved on. I do think that there's some moves the mayor could make, but I think the Secret Service and the feds now and the FBI and all those other folks are going to be sending their men in blue with riot helmets and all that to make sure we're safe. And it's interesting how the mayor seemed to turn his tune after a really deadly, violent weekend over the holiday a week or so ago. And we'll see what that means. I mean, $100 million investment suddenly appears a couple of days after that 4th of July weekend to do violence intervention work, which data shows works. The problem is it's only affected 10 or 15% of the folks community groups know about that could benefit from this kind of violence intervention work. And the mayor and the governor are really all behind this kind of approach right now. And we'll see, because it'll take a longer term than just this summer, whether that kind of stuff really works. But that unfortunately is going to be one of the frames reporters coming here covering the convention might end up looking at. But again, this shooting over the weekend last is really changing the cards a lot, and it's tough to tell what the tea leaves are going to say.
Back to the Democratic convention, we did see in the news, I don't know if it was before or after the events in Pennsylvania with the former president, but where they had made some advances between groups of protesters and their lawyers going in discussion with the city. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, but we certainly hope it's not too violent or things get out of hand. And I say that as a veteran of 68, when we certainly, I believe we were pushed and the police initiated it, but it got heavy in the streets, as many of you.
There were 2 or 3 nights of police riots, not just the last one when the whole world was watching. And my dear late friend Hank DeZutter was in the middle of all that, both reporter and refuge house in the midst of the Lincoln Park parts of that whole week. So that we have lots of history. But, back to the shooting in Pennsylvania, I couldn't help but think, well, we're going to need another Warren Commission. And here we are decades later, still questioning the results of that study. It'll be interesting to see what the reports on what happened to the Secret Service protection net, and was that really blood or ketchup, and all those sorts of things that went on right away, including the GOP blaming Biden for inciting violence. And I just thought, is this 1984 or what, that we let the other side claim our issues in such a way that they get turned against us? I mean, it's just, this guy really sharp. He is
that guy Vance, the JD Vance, who is a possible vice presidential candidate on the Republican side.
He has so much of a beard, I'm told, to make it on Trump's list. But go ahead.
Well, he basically he kind of blamed it on Biden and the Democrats for the way we behave, and we caused it. I don't know.
January 6th.
Say it again.
January 6th.
Yeah, what about that? They don't want to talk about that. And I'm not sure about what happened there and who this kid is who did the shooting and lost his life over it. He was a registered Republican. He was a gun owner. He's got his gun through his dad.
His dad bought a gun for him.
Yeah, and he was, I think on the Telegraph out of England, I saw something about how he's a gun lover. So I just don't know where this is going and what we'll find out. My first thoughts were, what is this? Some kind of staged thing? But
I thought book depository and pin it all on Lee Harvey Oswald, even though, is that the right kind of weapon to use for that kind of sharpshooting? It just, I'm going to wait and see until we hear some facts. I don't believe the initial story or frame until it totally unfolds. And there's a lot of video on people's camera phones that we haven't seen yet that I'm still kind of waiting for. But I also don't want to spend much time or breath on conspiracy theories right now. I'd like to wait until the air clears a little bit and look at why there's so much media attention on Joe Biden's foibles or now this assassination attempt and not on what this other guy is saying out of his mouth every time it opens, one lie after another, on a record that was terrible compared to the current president's record. So, the typical kind of race course coverage of our political campaigns is more and more bizarre and detached from what people are really talking about or feeling, which for 80% of voters is still trying to get through the summer and get their kids new clothes for school in the fall. And they're not even thinking about the crazy election with these two crazy old men that want our attention. I mean, come on, get away from me.
Well, I like to defend old men, but on the other hand, it's been painful to watch Joe Biden.
Time for us to step aside. And
I agree.
this generation step up. There are a lot of talented folks ready to
I don't know what'll happen if Biden will step down. I think it's imperative that he does, to be honest with you. And I read things that say Jeffries and Obama and a lot of people are encouraging that. And on the other hand, I get stuff from Joe Biden's campaign about how Obama's all in. So, I'm not sure what's going on, what the dynamics are behind the scene. I think that Kamala Harris would be a good candidate.
I can't wait for her to debate the twice impeached felon. I mean, she just, you know what I want her to ask if they give them a chance to talk to each other? How many abortions have you arranged for or paid for in your adult life? Seriously, I can't believe the White House press staff or others have not asked this apprentice fraud in our lives has gotten away with over the years. There is no moral compass to that sociopath. And, it's 1939 all over again.
Well, what do you think is his appeal? I mean,
people are frustrated at being left out with all the jobs that went to Mexico and China. And that's correct. Our Ohio-centered Rust Belt from Pennsylvania through Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin, that's the core of the Democratic base, and it's fractured because those folks feel left out. And if you throw in the rural areas in those states, and I'll include now Iowa, what happened to Kansas, Minnesota is still okay, but you got to fight for it to keep it there. That was the core of a farm labor kind of coalition that we've lost because a lot of those folks feel left out and left behind, and don't believe the elites care about them anymore. And I sort of understand that, and we can throw facts back about, well, you guys take more tax revenue than you get a bigger share of tax revenue than we're giving in, and we don't mind that because we remember that food stamps came out of a compromise between rural and urban senators and representatives who could see both sides benefiting from a program that benefit family farms while giving hungry people in cities more food. And of course, the majority of users of food stamps are poor white families, and mostly in southern red states, if you want to be honest about it. But so bizarre times, Michael. And I gotta ask you, how much of this week's Republican convention are you going to watch?
Depends on what's on with other sports and on the news. But there's a lot of ifs out there about if the Republicans win, what will happen, that kind of thing. I think I want to go back to what we think why people like the the former president. And I think one thing is that people have, even though the economy is doing well, everyone has difficulty in their life. And in some ways, people have kind of blamed the government. I remember a time you and I were pretty critical of our government, and now we're kind of rooting for the Democrats in order. But I think a lot of people, it's to give the finger and a PO'd at the system. And Trump, actually, the orange-haired guy, appears orange-haired now with some red, appears to, saying, stick it to the government, stick it to the establishment, the powers that be.
And we have an iconic picture out of this Pennsylvania shooting that will probably set the tone of the next 4 months, I'm afraid to say, and beyond.
Those pictures are a gold mine for him. Yes. I mean, and if the Secret Service let him stand up and do that, where they're supposed to cover him up totally and protect him, he's like, they would stop and kind of give him a clear view for him, not only to give a fist, but there's one where he's doing a Heil Hitler kind of thing. And that's the one
I said. That AP photographer should and will get a lot of awards for capturing that particular moment, because it is iconic. It probably spells the doom of our republic, if I can't be too gloomy about things on a bright summer humid day. But that's why we need to fight and organize even harder than ever, and not sit on our couch. We need to get those couch voters up and out and voting for our side.
Yeah, I think we can do it. I think we really have to, people have to believe, and a lot of people already are naysayers, and they don't think that we can pull it out. But things can change. And one thing that I think has been hard for us in many ways is the way the media plays all this stuff. And I thought you might, in our closing moments, want to talk about the media. I know you've been paying attention to former guest Del Marie Cobb, et cetera. What do you got on the media, Thom, in relation to anything you want to talk about?
Well, Del Marie pointed out in a column this week how, the former president has confused the names of Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi. He confused a photo of his accused victim of abuse, sexual abuse, E. Jean Carroll, with his former wife, Marlon Maples. I mean, he's done all sorts of bizarre stuff and many more gaffes and just outright lying sins. But we don't get coverage in this so-called cover both sides. Particularly in recent weeks, there have been far more coverage in this sort of titillating, is he too old? Is he going to fumble again? I mean, I had an interesting conversation with, or I overheard one, former Republican strategist, now kind of a moderate, and is aghast at Trump. Oh, I know. This was David Brooks on the NewsHour. I'm sorry that I didn't think of this before. And he's just going, when I was a young Republican, rah-rah for Reagan, every time he appeared in public, we're kind of going like this, worried about, is he going to make it through this time? Did Nancy pump him up? And I mean, it's he didn't say that, but it's an interesting time for Republicans to go through this all again, because they've actually been through it before. So I think the media could do less horse race poll coverage and more out on the street burning shoe leather to talk to real voters about what's on their mind, and we might understand the Trump phenomenon better, as well as how well Biden or someone else can trumpet the Democratic message. It's a great list of accomplishments to run out.
I just want to reiterate to all the people who tune into this show, because we know that we don't have millions, but we do have a number of people who are pretty active in the world and in their community. And, it's about organizing. Those of us who are in the movement and have been in the movement around a lot of issues for a lot of years know that we can make a difference if we really put in the work. And that's what we got to do. Got any closing comments, Thom? We're running out of time.
Michael, have a great, safe summer and organize.
All right. And we'll see you next month. Maybe we'll get to talk about cannabis and all the things we had planned to talk about before the most recent events that have taken place.
Stories about Michigan and from
All right. Adios, brother, and everybody else, stay tuned. We're going to be right back with a little music from Ella Jenkins and Lynn Orman, who's been her publicist for the last 30 years or more, is going to talk about Ella. And I think we're going to play some earlier recordings we did of her celebrating an earlier birthday back at the Heartland Cafe. We'll be right back. Well, that was some Ella Jenkins music, and Ella Jenkins is somebody that everyone should know. She's a longtime Chicagoan, and she's a wonderful folk singer. Did a lot of work with kids. I saw her a few times. I saw her at a graduation where my wife was graduating from school, and Ella performed. And then I saw Ella with Pete Seeger at the People's Church in Uptown. And I'm really glad to say that we had Ella Jenkins on live from the Heartland a few times at the Heartland Cafe back in the day. And we actually do have a recording and, video recordings of those. And I think we will, Lynn and I, who Lynn is coming on, she is our music producer and a longtime associate of Ella Jenkins. And we're going to talk about Ella, and then we will play some of the videos that we have of Ella at the Heartland. So with all of that garble coming out of my mouth, I'm bringing on a wonderful friend, Lynn Orman, and she's got a picture of Ella right there by her, and Lynn is set up to talk. So hello, Lynn.
Good morning, Michael. Thank you for bringing back all the wonderful memories that we had at the Heartland Cafe. Truly my favorite place to do interviews.
We had a lot of good interviews on that show, and anyone who is curious and is new to our show and doesn't know about it, if you go to youtube.com/Heartland Media, there are hundreds of interviews, and you could just type in Ella Jenkins' name, and I think 4 or 5 of them come up. And Ella's not the only person we had there. We had, people from the Jefferson Airplane and Starship. We had plenty of Muddy Waters kids there. We've had a lot of prominent musicians and politicians. You will have a good time. But in this case, look for Ella Jenkins at youtube.com/Heartland Media. So, Lynn, you and I have talked about Ella a little bit. And what I gleaned from our conversation is that you have actually been Ella's publicist for a long time. So I want to ask you, how did you meet Ella? What were your early impressions? And what does it mean that you've been her publicist for over 30 years now that she's about to hit 100?
Isn't that amazing? I started as her publicist at the same age that I am right now. So it's been about 34 years that I've been her publicist. And when I got out of college, I started teaching at a Head Start program in Evanston at Dawes School. And one of the artists that we used all the time was Ella Jenkins. And I would do these call and response songs with the kids in the program in the daycare. Little did I know that my life would go on this journey into the music industry. And I became very involved with the Grammys, as you know, with the Grammys back in early 1980s. And Linda Mensch happened to be her entertainment attorney. And Linda was a very good friend of mine. I've served on the Grammy board, and as vice president, Ella was president. And she said, Ella Jenkins is getting nominated for a Grammy and she needs a publicist. And I went, wait, Ella Jenkins, the woman that I've been singing her songs, when I was a preschool teacher? Well, I had segued from early childhood education to being in the music industry. So it was just an absolute perfect fit for me. Somebody that I revered, a folk artist. I was always a folkie, loved folk music. And so I got to meet Ella and her manager and lifelong partner, Bernadelle. And we just became fast and furious partners, good friends. And I so enjoyed being her publicist in the early years, when, she was the first time nominee for a Grammy, which was wonderful. It was like one of the first women of color to be nominated for a Grammy. I think it was Bucky Hawker actually was on that album.
Another folky guy who's been on our show, wonderful guy with a lot of history and knowledge. Lynn, you were sharing with us a bit about how you became Ella's rep. And what I'd like to know is, after you became her publicist for her Grammy presentation, or her Grammy nomination, the first one, I think it's more than one.
Mm-hmm.
What did you then do as a publicist? So what does a publicist do for a musician?
Well, in terms of getting the information out there, and Ella already being somewhat of a star, a television star, because in 1956 she was on WTTW. She had her own television segment called This Is Rhythm on the Totem Club.
Oh,
and
wow.
After that, from 1974 until 1992, I think my dates are pretty right, she was a special featured guest with Mr. Rogers on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
And really crossing barriers, right, for a woman of color to make an impact in music, but also as an activist and having her voice heard. So that was pretty extraordinary. And I think she had also had a few episodes on the Barney, if your kids remember watching Barney at all. But she was a favorite, and so it wasn't for me. It was a total gift to be able to pitch her to the different networks, television, for this new Grammy nomination that she got. And if I'm correct, I think it was a union of friends working together. So it was a lot of union songs.
Well, she's quite a person. Why don't you tell us how she's doing today? And she is, I guess she's retired from performing. But you saw her the other day, and you have someone, we're going to maybe play it somewhere in the show, a guy singing a song for Ella. But tell us a little bit how Ella's doing today.
Well, she's turning 100. And as we know, memory loss, when you reach that age, or any age probably over.
I got it.
Yeah, right. But talk about call and response. Okay. If I will go there, I was there yesterday. And just for instance, we were reading this new storybook that it is about her. It's called The Life of Song, Ella Jenkins. And it's wonderful. And there's a second book coming out on her too. It only took her 100 years to get, a children's storybook out on her. She's had other music books. This Is Rhythm, one that she did with Peggy Lipschutz, who was our guest with her on that 90th celebration. But we were talking about call and response, and she said, my favorite artist was Cab Calloway. And nobody could do call and response better than Cab Calloway. And she started singing Minnie the Moocher. She started singing all the words to Heidi, 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 oh. And then we did call and response back with her. So that really became her signature, and still is today. And I don't think there's anybody that can do it as well as Ella Jenkins. She created Did You Feed My Cow, which I think might be in our show, her 90th anniversary birthday that we did. So Did You Feed My Cow? Who Fed the Chickens? I mean, that was really, really important to her, to have this ability to work with kids and have them respond. Ravinia, by the way, she was one of the pioneers of children's programming at Ravinia for 40 years. And one of the significant things about that is she would bring, and everywhere she performed, she would bring children up on stage. She'd bring parents and teachers up on stage, and she would have them counting in different languages. She would have them singing in different languages. It was always about the children and having them learn something new, something, a new culture.
Well, we had her on Live from the Heartland back in when the Heartland Cafe was still standing. And I think it was probably around July 28, 2014, we had her with Juan Diaz. And I don't know if Peggy Lipschitz was on that one or not. But we're going to play some of that interview because it's relevant and we'll hear this call and response. But before we do, Lynn, there is going to be a little bit of a celebration. Actually, Ella's birthday is August 6th. And on August 4th, in Ella Jenkins Park at 333 West Wisconsin, where her church is located, Church of the Crosses.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that event. And is Ella going to be there? And is that a public event? What's going to happen?
It is a public event and free to the public. We would love people to come out. There is a great little plaque, a cement block. It says, storyteller, Ella Jenkins Park, with a really great plaque. It's where she went for years. She lived right down the street on Mohawk Street. And from 12 to 2, there will be music, there'll be cake, and hopefully a sing-along, maybe some call and response. We're just really, everybody say a prayer that Ella will join us that day. We're doing a little private birthday party for her at her residence on that Saturday, and with fingers crossed that we're going to get a few special guests to come and visit her. I mean, Ella, as you know, is coined as the first lady of children's music. And I have to say, when she received the 5th Star Award in Chicago, that was like the big Chicago Heroes Award. We had a little surprise for her. And the First Lady then, Michelle Obama, did a testimonial tribute and said, Ella Jenkins, I love you, and you were the First Lady before I ever was the First Lady.
Well, that's a good one.
Two great Chicagoans.
This is really good. I'm glad you came on to help share this. You've been really a strong supporter of this show. It brought us a lot of great guests. And you brought Ella Jenkins to the Heartland, and we're going to play that. We're going to go out with that until the very end when I'll come back and say goodbye. So our engineer, Hal, let's play a little bit of Ella Jenkins on the video, which for you who are listening by radio could also hear what she has to say and the voices of some kids and other people singing along. So everybody listen up to Ella Jenkins and enjoy. We'll be back in a little bit.
Used to hear it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song?
No. Well, one that many of the children, before one of the songs I did write, you'll sing a song, but that Miss Mary Mac, and because it rhymes, it's easy and simple. Miss Mary Mac, all dressed in black, with silver buttons all down her back.
Would you like to sing that with one playing along with you? Well, you up for that?
Miss
Get in the right key.
Miss Mary Mac. Yeah, is that okay? Miss Mary Mac, all dressed in black, with silver buttons all down her back. We'll ask her mother for 15 cents to see the elephants jump the fence. Well, they jumped so high, they touched the sky, and they never came back till the 4th of July. Never never came back till the 4th of July. Okay, now, Lynn, would you put your camera down? And you come up here and do this, see if you can still...
We're going to bring
She's young,
Lynn
but
Orman
she may
up.
never know. Okay.
She is our one of our
And we used to
producers,
do
and she
this.
does a great job of securing great talent.
Mary Mac. Dressed in black, black, black with silver buttons, buttons, buttons all down her back, back, back. Where'd you ask her mother, mother, for 15 cents, cents to see the elephant, elephant jump the fence, fence, where they jump so high, high, they touch the sky, and they never came back till the 4th of July. You did real well. And another thing we should do, 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4, 5 potato, 6 potato, 7 potato, more. Okay. And then if we sometimes we did it in dialect. 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4, 5 potato, 6 potato, 7 potato, more. Gotta get it. All right. So what's
Ella,
happening?
well, I'm going to do a little more of this interview now that I got you to sing. I
got a question. How old is Ella Jenkins?
Oh,
They say
I was born in
39.
I was born in 1924. You figured out.
Ella Jenkins is as old as surrealism, as when Andre Breton wrote it in the first Surrealist Manifesto. She's as old as Mercedes-Benz, IBM, and MGM. She's as old as Caesar salad, and as old as the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade in New York City. She's as old as the Republic of Greece. All of these started in 1924.
Oh, that's pretty good.
We like a guy who comes on the show and has done his research.
Ella Jenkins.
Well, I tell you, all you have to do with all the things you mentioned, just give me one of those, and I think I'll be.
So Ella, these are some people who were born on the same year as you were. Earl Scruggs,
Oh, yeah, I know.
Benny Hill,
Okay.
Sarah Vaughan,
Oh, Sarah Vaughan, she's one.
Marlon Brando, Jimmy Roberts,
Gee,
yeah,
all the greats.
Jimmy Roberts, Henry Mancini,
That's,
Dennis Weaver, the actor from
Oh, yes.
Gunsmoke,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Gunsmoke, and later he rode a horse through New York streets on that show.
Chet Atkins. Chet Atkins was born 1924. Truman Capote,
Really? Oh, my goodness.
Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter.
I have, what you could do is give me a list of that. Give me that list.
Yeah.
Yeah, like.
Send them birthday cards.
No,
Leah
I don't think,
Iacocca.
I don't think some of them. Well,
How many
let's
more
see.
you got there, brother?
I have 2 more. Leah Iacocca. And the last one is Consuelo Velázquez. Now, Consuelo Velázquez is a Mexican songwriter who wrote the song Bésame Mucho.
Oh, Bésame Mucho.
And when she
I'll
recorded
play
that
and you
song, it was-
and you we can play together.
let's play that song. She
Let's see
wrote
if
it
let me
when she
see.
was 15 years old.
When?
She was 15 years old.
She wrote
The
that
song means "Kiss Me a Lot,"
Yeah.
and by the time when she wrote it, she had never been kissed.
Pobre, I'll say.
He was hoping, though.
Well, to that I'll say pobrecita.
Pobrecita.
Okay. All right. Got the same key? didn't even rehearse beforehand.
I think we're going to have to.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I love giving you questions to answer, but I think that what really is the most popular thing that you do here, whenever you've shown up, is doing some more singing. You got another song you want to kick out the jams on?
I think some of the people may know the answer. This is one for the children. If it said, "Did you feed my cow?" What you say? Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Can you come in so you can help me teach them?
Okay. Who's this big kid?
Your name is
Elijah.
Elijah. This is Elijah.
Wow.
Let's have a big round of applause for Elijah.
Elijah here.
Well, I think he can. I think he can make his voice nice and loud, can't you?
Okay.
The two of us are going to work, and you have to listen carefully so that in case we do it again, then you can give the right response. Listen to his response. Did you feed my cow?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you tell me how?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you feed her?
Corn and hay.
What did you feed her?
Corn and hay.
Did you milk her good?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you milk her like you should?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you milk her? Show us.
Swish, swish, swish.
How did you milk her?
Swish, swish, swish.
Did my cow get sick?
Yes, ma'am.
Was she covered with ticks?
Yes, ma'am.
How did she die? How did she die? Did the buzzards come?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the buzzards come?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, how did they come? Show me.
Flap, flap, flap.
How did they come?
Flap, flap, flap.
Didn't they do a good job? Okay. All right. Now without his voice, I'm going to see how much you remembered what he taught you. Okay. It's your turn now. Did you feed my cow?
Yes, ma'am.
Good to tell me how.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you feed her?
Corn and hay.
What did you feed her?
Corn and hay.
Did you milk her good?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you milk her like you should?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you milk her?
Switch, switch.
How did you milk her?
Switch, switch, switch.
How did you milk her? Oh, give yourselves a nice hand. Now, do you know another song that I've done before? Anything that
I like you'll sing a song.
boy, gee. That was one of my favorite songs and one of the songs that's very popular. He said, you'll sing a song. Can we do it together and then we'll teach them? You sing a song and
I'll sing your song.
then we'll sing a song too.
Together.
You sing a song
I'll sing a song.
in warm or
Wintry weather.
okay, let's try it, everybody.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that either audio or video, however you're getting the show of Ella Jenkins at her 90th birthday. And I want to thank Lynn Orman for coming on and talk about Ellen. And Lynn, I'm going to give you another minute to talk about a couple of things that we want to share and we didn't do at the outset of our interview. What do you got?
Well, there are two storybooks, as I said, that are going to be released. Or one is out right now called A Life in Song, and another book that's coming out in November. But it really tells about her being a hidden gem in the civil rights movement and all of the artists, that she kind of that she brought on in 1956 on This Is Rhythm. Odetta and Big Bill Broonzy. She was really inspired by Big Bill Broonzy. That was one of her Uncle Flood's favorite artists that she met. So, she was a young girl and she has paved the way as an African-American woman and pioneer in the children's industry and folk music and as an activist.
Well, everybody should check out as much Ella as you can. And if you all haven't really listened to much Odetta, you should. I'm glad to say that my father, when he was out of work, did produce a concert with Odetta. And with that said, I'm going to say it's time to close this show for the week of July 20th. I want to thank our engineer, Hal James, our guests, and our sometimes producer, Lynn Orman and Thom Clark, both of you. And I want to encourage all of you to continue to do good in the world, because the world does need all the good that you do, that I do, that Lynn does, that Ella Jenkins has done. We have to work together. We have to build unity, understanding, compassion, and we can make a difference. So get ready for a lot of political work in the months to come. See you next week. Over and out.